And welcome back, everybody, to the PCS week number 3. We are moving on to our second game of the day, and is going to be Deep Cross Gaming, a team that has only just recently suffered their first loss up against the likes of Impunity. But before we get into that, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. They are CTBC Bank and, of course, Caliber. Thank you for making the PCS possible. Now, Clement, records-wise, this would definitely suggest that Deep Cross are a very heavy favorite. But momentum-wise, things are starting to look a little bit more Impunity favored.
True. Impunity is coming off a 2-1 week in week number 2 here. You could say, okay, their opponents weren't necessarily, the top of the caliber, but it really has been about the way they have found those wins. It's through their interesting drafts. We saw that full-on engage composition from Yasuo on against MFT, and then we also saw the Zed jungle going up against Sem9. So this has been, I have to say, one of my favorite teams to watch. They're always very creative. Sure, pound for pound, I wouldn't say that they're the most talented team, but they sort of circumvent that by thinking outside of the box and just kind of shocking you with these team compositions. And so far, the big thing for them has been ease of execution. If you have a composition that just kind of runs at you, gets those resets, and gets those kills, that seems to be the way forward, as they have found 2 of their wins on the Jinx and the Tryndamere.
Absolutely. Now, their opponents, of course, Deep Cross, have been known much more for a very specific composition. That is the double enchanters. Nesty in the mid lane has played the Bard half the time, and certainly seems to look very comfortable on it. I wonder, though, when they have been playing against stronger opponents and trying more standard compositions, if they're not quite as comfortable as we saw against the likes of CFO. Although that was a very close game, and I do think that's something Impunity have to keep on their minds. The hotshot rookie Chris Scotta, he's been able to play Zeri twice, Jinx twice, even got a Heimerdinger game in there because that paired up for the double enchanters. I think he's definitely the hot rookie to pay attention to. But on the Impunity side, Blaze, you would say, is arguably, at least coming to the split, was their best player. I think that still holds true.
Yeah, for sure. And that battle between the hyper carries is going to be super interesting as well. But for me, the real challenge is actually from the top side here. Leaky, as we've mentioned, he actually has the best laning stats of any player in the PCS. Not because he passes the eye test as the best top laner, but because he's the best dual laner that's top. He always gets a ton of resources from Hana. They always try to snowball his lane, and he actually picks for that as well. We saw the Urgot just doing tower dives and getting executions off onto rest, and Hana paying him multiple visits into the top lane. So going up against Quiet, that's going to be very interesting too, because Quiet, for me, actually has potential to oust Leaky just one-on-one, and they both have a very high priority for the Tryndamere pick here. So it's going to be a clash between, can Quiet kind of find those opportunities to take Leaky down solo, and how Taco can run interference.
Yeah, I think Taco's definitely a key for that one, to see if he can get the assist, because clearly we know Hana's going to be helping Leaky out, so that should be at best a 2v2. Another thing to keep in mind is Impunity's bottom side, because it's not just Blaze, it's also Pinway here, who has been stepping into the role so far undefeated in his 2 games, but it is going to be the jungle matchup we're looking at, and I don't want to let the KDA fool anyone, because that's not going to tell the whole story here. Taco has had some really standout performances, and yeah, I loved that Zed jungle. It was a style game, but he definitely made it look good.
Yeah, and what I would mention about these 2 players is that they both have a very strong streak of playing carries from the jungle side. As for Hana, Diana has been one of his just free go-to picks this patch, because coming from the blue side, and if the enemy team has to ban Bard and ban Zeri at the same time, a lot of the times you're just going to get that Diana for free. It's very difficult to deny him that, even on the second round rotation of blue side. And for Taco as well, we have seen this guy try to play more of a carry on the team to shore up what I feel like is a lack of consistency. If you don't have consistent carries, then at least you can overwhelm the opponent with 4 carries into the late game. So it's going to be interesting to see who kind of picks up what pieces, as we do have DCG just outright banning the Diana. They're on blue side, completely undefeated so far, and that's just an easy answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. Taco also looked decent on the champion too, and you do see that the focus starts to shift up towards the top. The Renekton is banned away on red side there by Impunity, but we do have to keep in mind, I was about to say Tryndamere still on the board, but Deep Cross just negated that, so there it goes. It's interesting that neither of these players have looked towards the Gwen that we've talked about having such a heavy presence. The only time either of them have actually played it, it was Taco's champion, and with the Xin Zhao banned away, I wonder if they tried. Well, I was going to say if they maybe flex it, but I clearly have the worst timing in this pick ban because it's an insta-lock for Leaky.
You were actually just a prophet. And I do want to mention that it's potentially for Hana as well. What we've seen from Hana throughout his career is that he's actually not that frequent of a ganker. He's much more of a duelist and sort of map controller than sort of hard forcing his ganks. I wouldn't even call his synergy with his solo lanes necessarily kind of his standout strength. So it is potentially a Gwen going into the jungle, as we've seen before. In the meantime, Blaze going for his Jinx. It's really interesting to see what AD carries prioritize in the PCS. As we've mentioned, Frank, Esports, Eminem, they really like the Aphelios. They always go for the Aphelios first. But for teams like Impunity, they actually always favor the Jinx first, which I think Jinx does have more potential to kind of pop off, because if you can kind of just catch one kill out of nowhere, then she has a huge probability of finishing off the entire team fight for you.
Trading off the consistency in favor of the upside, and it has been more successful for Impunity this split. Of the games they've won, the 2 they've already picked up, those were both Jinx games for Blaze. So we'll have to see if they continue the trend here. Now, another strong jungle pick. This would answer our question about where that Gwen is going for sure. If the Hecarim gets locked in, and oh boy, we've seen some interesting Hecarim games around the world, actually. This is a champion that can really turn the tables against your opponent, and that is going to be a lock. So I believe that's confirmed, a Leaky Gwen.
I think the situation for Hecarim is very strong. The games are going a little bit later across the regions. We were seeing on average about 35 minutes in the LCK. Hecarim is a very strong scaling jungler and probably the best teamfight jungler if it does get to that stage. Also, you're playing up against a lot of champions like Jinx and Aphelios that can't really get away from that decimating charge. It's very easy to disrupt them. You get free access into the back line. You're unstoppable during your charge, and then you just kick them back into your own team. So it just pairs up so well. And DCG right now, they already have a super strong setup. This is insane if you're trying to play keep away for your backline. So I think Impunity really need to think about if they're going to trend more into this backline carry for Blaze, or are they going to go on more of a, I would say, tempo route with this Ahri pick.
It does seem to be the case here, and it's also comfort, right? Because Faith did find success on this champion. I've been meaning to ask you a little bit about Faith, because it seems like he started the split very much not showing us hardly anything, and now in a couple of wins, he's actually looked really solid in a pair of assassins, and this Ahri was one of them.
Yeah, I think the Ahri is a very interesting pick for him. Overall, I would say Faith, throughout the games that we've seen so far, probably still has some difficulties against the top of the league, as we have seen, but against the bottom of the league, he definitely has a very, very strong performances overall. So I would say that he's definitely middle of the pack in terms of his mid lane potential, and I really want to see what he can do with his Ahri. This Ahri isn't really a control mage. I would say that she does kind of stay on the wall between an assassin and a control mage, so she's more of a, I would say, a tempo pick, especially if you get resets, which is what Impunity is setting themselves up for. Oh, this is so smart of DCG. If they actually go for the Kindred, it would completely invalidate Impunity's composition. Very difficult to play, but
I mean, they love playing weird stuff, man. I think it could happen, but the Jhin gets locked in for Chris Scotta. That's actually going to be the first pick for him. Now, if I recall correctly, I remember looking up looking up his Korean OPGG before the split started, wondering what this guy was going to bring, anything interesting. Jhin was definitely up the top of the list, but that, of course, is a champion that has been making a lot of appearances. Now, a little bit of a fun hover on that Bard for Nesty as we look to get our final lock. And I mean, I feel like Nesty could just pull out whatever. He's going to go for the Zillion.
This is an old-time J-Team combination. There's so many interesting things you can do with this combo. We have seen the old TPA run this, and I'll just give you a couple of examples of how you can play this combo. Basically, you can put bombs on minions, and oh, that doesn't work anymore. I'm sorry. I was thinking about the old TPA combo where you would put bombs on minions, and then you would devour those minions and spit them into the enemy team. But that doesn't work anymore. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But it was really fun to see. We still have the Zillion with double bombs charging into the back line, so that can definitely still be a possibility. It's very clear that DCG are reading Impunity's composition correctly. Impunity is all about getting resets. They have the Sovereign, the Heartbreaker coming out from Viego, and the resets coming in from both Jinx and Ahri, and you have that neutralization coming in from Tahm Kench and both and also the Zillion. And this is why I love this matchup, because both of these teams are definitely thinking about the composition rather than sleepwalking through tier lists.
Yeah, and I think that just makes it so much more interesting to watch in the draft too, because you can kind of try and like just think out like what are those like micro decisions that are happening. You see they take their time about every single pick, every single ban, and this is why I have a lot of hope for this Impunity squad. Even after some early rough starts, they were already looking better. They were already looking a little bit more consistent than what we saw from them last split. This roster definitely seems to be better. We didn't even talk about how the Jace final pick comes in here. So yeah, you talked about how it's a big tempo game on the side of Impunity. They have a lot of damage to open up, but there's a lot of denial. You talked about the Tahm Kench, the Zillion Chrono Shift can stop anyone from dying. And you also got to think about who the prio target is, right? It's got to be Jhin, but also you got to deal with the Gwen. Gwen is immune a lot of the time, so bursting is going to be a little difficult from a distance.
Yeah, if you think about Gwen, it really is how many melee damage dealers do you have to kind of dissuade her from jumping in on you. And in this case, there's only the jungle. So I expect Gwen to have very good success when it comes to the teamfight phase. However, I'm not sure about the laning between Zillion and Ahri. I don't think Zillion really has the strongest of laning phases. You really need that. I believe it's level 4 until you can start full clearing the wave. So we'll see how that works. But I do see just Viego and Ahri having their way in the mid jungle. So if Faith and Taco can find some early jump starts, they could easily take that advantage, in my opinion, to the bot side.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if they can speed the game up for themselves, or will time be slowed down by the deep cross mid laner. Always an interesting pick ban phase watching this squad. You never know what Nesty is going to pull out next, and we'll take a look if there's any shenanigans to start us off in game number 1, or in game number 2 here, excuse me. Interestingly enough, Leaky going for a bit more of a defensive choice in that rune pick.
Yeah, we do have Leaky with the Grasp, which is we have seen it against tanks, but not so much against the Jace, which is the interesting thing here. It is showcasing that I think it's a trade pattern thing. Leaky doesn't really expect to get extended trades against Quiet while he's going to be taking a lot of incoming damage. So most likely he's just going in for a snip and then running out back and taking the Hollowed Mist with him. So
just a bit off the top, not a full haircut.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, I think, the main reason he's going for the grass. Another interesting thing is Faith here. Usually you do see the Ahri being taken by Ahri, but as you can see, this is very much a burst-focused Ahri. He's trying to push the tempo early, and I love to see that. A lot of it does come down to if you can land those charms or not, but we're going to finally get Faith on a good Ahri game, hopefully.
Also, I may be a little biased, but Ahri is a little difficult to say, so I definitely prefer the Electrocute on the whole. Yeah, I want to watch this top matchup, too, because we talked about how Quiet and Leaky are both really interesting top laners coming into this league, and I think they both have a lot to prove. Leaky has shown up immensely already, but we haven't seen him on this Gwen, so theoretically he has a massive advantage, and he's gone for this more interesting and unorthodox trading pattern with the Grasp of the Undying, and also, the more defensive summoner spell setup. No Ignite for the Gwen, teleport instead. It's all team focus.
I think he is going to have a little bit more regen with this setup too, and as we can see, the poke potential here is actually quite strong coming in from Leaky. He's not really losing the trade, also has the minion advantage to level 2.
Ooh, aggressive move from Woody. They've actually got the root up, but Pinway turns around and body blocks. Man, Johnny on the spot for that support. I've been loving what Pinway's brought to this team. No shade at Kralix, but it does feel like a different caliber of bot lane 2v2.
For sure. I feel like his team fighting as well has been pretty solid. So Impunity have shored up what I consider to be their primary weakness, which is they don't really have an explosive early game. Quiet, in my opinion, is actually quite decent in the lane, but he doesn't get that much help from Taco, and his laning stats do suffer a lot. Bot lane with Kralix, they did lose a lot of 2v2s, and Faith is usually pretty quiet in that area as well. So once they shore up a lot of their early game, I feel they have a lot more explosiveness coming into the mid game, especially when they're running these combinations that do require a lot of wombo combos and just reset kills.
Oh boy. Yep. Sees the Herald path coming and walks straight away. Leaky is going to be dissuaded for just a second. Taco obviously just taking the opportunistic movement, and Hana, meanwhile, will go ahead and take an opportunity to pick up the Scuttle Crab topside. And you know, Hecarim in a game, you talk about how it's so much impact in those team fights. A little bit later on, lets the dive really commence, and we've seen some hugely impactful Onslaught of Shadows, but he can definitely gank early. Ooh, Charm lands on the Zillion. Nicely done. Faith dodges out all of the bombs and manages to dish it right back.
Yeah, I just feel like it's so difficult to lane against an Ahri in this situation. You can see that Faith is pushing the lane in, which usually is an indication you're winning in the mid lane. And you do get the extra movement speed from Foxfire. It's very telegraphed coming in from Nesty. I just feel like mid lane is going to be very difficult to do anything with. Meanwhile, they don't spot this Taco coming in.
Here he goes, Kriskata trying to walk away. In fact, they actually opt for the Tom Kench instead as he steps right on top of the traps, gets the gray health, but that's going to be first blood to Blaze. And now Hana comes in, forcing the flash out of Pinway. And honestly, that was a nice smash and grab.
Yeah, that was a great anticipation right there. Well, maybe it wasn't anticipated, but unfortunately for Woody, he did flash straight into that hook regardless. So, you know, just strong early lead coming in from Impunity, and this is exactly what they want to see. They want to get that Jinx fed. Blaze has been the main damage dealer for this team. No surprises there. It was the same thing in the last split as well. And if he gets fed, then this kind of reset composition gets a lot easier to execute.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do, and they did it exactly as they needed. Curious that the focus really was so hard on Woody. It just seemed like Kriskata would have been a prio target, but maybe they sensed he would be able to get away easier. Actually doesn't end up needing his flash. But all said and done, I mean, that finishes off the Noon Quiver. Meanwhile, back to the top, Quiet is in a lot of trouble here as he gets the knockaway, but Leaky ghosting on, walks it out. Quiet, well, he's still a little bit behind in this farm game as soon as this wave gets cut down to size, but you gotta be careful not to get 1v1 by the Gwen.
Yeah, this is a pretty terrible situation for Quiet here, as he does have to walk back to his lane in this one. That does mean that DCG, in my opinion, has a chance to just go level 6 and lane gank him. He won't have enough time to really set up this lane correctly. He still has 2 wards, which is a lot more than I anticipated. But let's see if Hana decides to make a move here. That level 6 Onslaught of Shadows is incredible. And right now with his bot lane losing and mid lane being an Ahri, I feel like top lane is definitely the prime target for him.
Makes a lot of sense, you know, try to win more if you can. Meanwhile, Woody is going to go ahead and take a little bit of a field trip into the mid lane, and not going to cost Kriskata a whole lot of anything at the moment. Oh, Quiet, gotta be careful, goes to the skies, into the mist, and actually gets the knock on to Leaky, but this is maybe the worst time to try to get aggressive because he runs straight into Hana, who doesn't even have an ult or need it.
Yeah, that was incredibly weird from Quiet. I feel like it was overplaying his hand. I understand that he wanted to bait Leaky into Taco and hopefully get the team rolling that way, but he didn't have vision of Hana. Nesty's coming in here, and now it's a 3v1.
Yeah, he kind of baited Taco into Leaky, and there we go. Hana's going to get a second one as the delayed double comes in, and so much farm going to waste as Faith will look to try and grab it up himself. A little late to the party, and that is the difference in the team coordination. Deep Cross just a little bit better and a little bit faster.
Yeah, I definitely see Quiet just mispositioning right there. Hana, as I talked about, it's really expected for him to just go top lane. Like, there is no other lane that's actually easy to gank in this situation, especially when Woody doesn't have a flash. It's very hard to secure any type of crowd control. So I feel like Quiet just overplays his hand. He could have waited for that wave to come in and just take it underneath his tower with the help of Taco. Ventures out, gets killed, And now we have Hana that's actually very fed right now on the map. And you can see Hana and Nespi both with those roaming Ionian boots are going to have a massive impact on the map.
Yeah, lanes, what lanes? 7.5 minutes into this one, it is a gold lead for Deep Cross. Not huge, but they definitely have it on the players that they would be happy with for the time being. As nobody's making eyes at the dragon just yet, but I think that is about to be a different story for the Rift Herald as Quiet opens up. Got to be careful. This isn't the safest take, but it is well-timed. I don't think they're going to be contested.
Yeah, I love this play from Impunity coming in. They do get the earlier rotation in. They have had mid lane priority this entire time, so very easy to set this up. They should just burn down this Herald as quickly as possible and have a safe retreat.
Taco looks to walk this one out, and on the rotate, he does dash. That was a close call, but no major cooldowns expended to make their escape and Impunity. You know, when they make their minds up to make a play, they can definitely execute it quite quickly. And I think that's one of the strengths that this team has, that they did not last split with their different roster.
They have shown quite a knack for macro play most of the time. As we were saying, I think most of the time when we see Impunity lose, it is just because of weird one-off mistakes. We've seen just Taco being caught off a lot of the times, or it used to be Krelix just being caught in the middle of nowhere, and that just kind of led to open Barons. But I feel like Impunity, now that they've had time to gel, those mistakes are going to just kind of iron themselves out. They're going to disappear, and what we're seeing is just a very strong sense of where they can claw back and trade things away. Impunity games have been incredibly close across the board, even if they are losing.
Yeah, and that's what's nice to see. They always keep it interesting. Meanwhile, it's a big old party up topside. Faith completely whiffs on the charm while Hana and Nesty duo him. Meanwhile, Leaky in a 1v2 situation, dishing the damage with the needlework and onslaught of shadows. Flashed away, Hana taking damage, return fire, and it's just about enough. But Nesty is there for the chrono shift. Will he be able to finish him? Taco goes forward with the Blade of the Rune King, and I don't believe it. Everybody walks away from this one, Clement.
They just can't finish off any targets. Great play there by DCG. Honestly, in terms of the champions and the burst potential, Impunity very easily could have picked off one target, but DCG did get the drop on their opponent from that inner tri-brush, forcing Faith to use his ultimate just a bit earlier and his abilities. So they were able to play that sequence out very nicely with Leaky going into the top side. He basically landed all 3 charges of his ultimate, stayed completely topped off there, and they're able to pull that one into an equal footing. And in the meantime, I believe they even got a little bit more CS back on Cristada's side by picking up that scuttle.
Yeah. No, overall, advantage DCG. You can see it reflecting in the gold game, just slowly creeping up. It's been averaging just a little under 1,000 here, which is not a small amount. And now it's Impunity aiming for, I was about to say the dragon, but they're actually just trying to go on a ward clear and maybe see if they catch anybody here. This is an aggressive move as Faith finds Hana. The charm is dashed away from. I think they might have bit off more than they could chew. They are going to look for the Hecarim, but Hana gets swallowed up by Woody here now. It's Taco in some trouble as the Super Mega Death Rocket completely intercepted. Taco knows he's dead. Griscata opens the curtain call, and Pinway has to flash away as Faith is absorbing everything and leaves the support out to dry. A little too aggro as Blaze tries to pick up the pieces here, but what can one 80 carry do against everybody? Another death denial. Faith tries to keep it alive, but he knows there is no more help coming. DCG cleaning up.
Oh, DCG with the superior composition, a perfect counter to a burst assassin comp is when you have Tom Kench and Zillion on the same team. It was unfortunate for Impunity. I felt like their initial try definitely could have succeeded, but they just didn't chain up the crowd control well enough. Hana was able to sidestep the remainder of that burst. There wasn't enough of that damage coming in from Blaze on that ultimate, and we can just watch that play again. It's only 1 out of 3 crowd control abilities landing on Hana, and that's just not enough to kill him. Woody with the perfect body block, and Taco's just kind of left out to dry here. Easy range for the Jhin to just open up here. Pingway goes down, and sometimes Faith is just not enough.
No, absolutely not. In fact, I don't think Faith had much himself as he flashed away. Thought he would be able to get away, but unfortunately, not only does he die, so does Pinway. And all said and done there.
Quite dead
Deep Cross
too.
Gaming. Yeah, they get, well, Rift Herald just popped in topside, but that's going to prompt a teleport response here. Impunity, I don't want to say they squandered a lead, but they certainly gave themselves up a little bit more than they needed to. And oh no, Shelly's not even going to get a charge off. I think Taco was probably reaching the end of the timer.
Yeah, I feel like
That's
he just
bad,
had
man.
to use it. You know, if you don't drop it, it's... I ponder in these situations if you should drop it or not, because, you know, dropping it is kind of free gold, but let's first watch how Quiet dies. It's actually just a solo kill, 1v2, right in front of the enemy's face. Takes that one as easy as can be. He even dodges out of Taco's ultimate here, and
that's a
Taco with the
frustration
timer
herald.
up. Yeah, there's nothing you could do there.
Yeah, Leaky's having a pretty good game on this Gwen. I think all said and done. Rest of Deep Cross looking to dive up topside now. This could be trouble. Blaze not even on full health. Immediately heals. There goes the Onslaught of Shadows. Good separation right now as they will find 2. And Pinway has absolutely nowhere to go. And Faith, I don't even know what you're doing here, buddy, as he Spirit Rushes over. Does grab 1. Is it going to be enough to save the tower? I don't think so. All plates destroyed. And meanwhile, in the bottom lane, I should say... Oh boy, everything is going.
Wins a 1v1?
Everything's going bad for Impunity right now, Clement. That was a Criscata solo kill.
Oh, how does that one happen? Okay, now Criscata does have a full mythic item complete. He's actually really fed at this point. I'm sorry for questioning him. It's still very impressive that he's going to be able to find the kill onto Quiet. It just feels like Quiet has been going from death to death to death this game. Definitely not a great showing for him on the top side, and we're going to take another look at what happened here. I love this combination. They juggle the tower aggro so well. He dives in with the bomb on top of Hana. Hana, when he goes into resurrection mode, does drop the aggro, so they walk out of the tower range, and the tower isn't even hitting anyone at that point. It just goes until Woody hits the tongue lash. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Quiet actually does a good job to sidestep, but the item difference, that's just sad to see. He was able to get away from the W, but not from the Gale Force and auto attacks.
Never bring a hammer to a gunfight is what I learned out of that one. And, you know, I think what's been really impressive this game for Deep Cross has just been how effective Nesty's chrono shifts have been. I mean, it's a zillion. It's not that complicated, but like it's just so much heavy denial and so much good use of juggling aggro on tower dives. It enables them to both be defensive and aggressive in a really effective manner. Impunity are going to be able to get this bot tower, but even with first brick, it feels like they're in a bit of a gold hole that's going to be hard to come back from. Objective bounty is huge, though, and that does make a difference.
We're going to watch that one again. It just seems like Leaky must die. That's kind of the answer from Impunity here. They land everything. Not the shock blast, but you know, it doesn't really require it. Oh,
ooh,
wow.
He does a lot of damage. He almost killed Quiet. Yeah. I feel like there was a bit of vendetta in that one. Meanwhile, though, Rift Herald popped in mid. I don't think he can stop the charge here. And meanwhile, as well, Hana comes in. They've got Taco caught up and rooted. No way to follow through on the damage, but they did prevent any defensive effort. And I think there might even be a second Shelly charging as the curtain call is popped. A few more shots, bombs on. They do get the stun up, and whoa, boy! That's a lot of damage. Messi waves the white flag at him.
Yeah, I was surprised that Hana actually got that kill. You know, he actually just chilling smited the enemy support like he was a minion. It's definitely kind of sad to see in that situation. This is what I love about DCG's comp. It not only counters the enemy comp, there's so many different ways and tools that you can use it. Like, you can play a poke comp with this, with the Zillion Bombs and the Jhin, and you can also play a very aggressive, just dive your backline comp with the Hecarim and the Zillion too. So there's a lot of good wrinkles in this composition, and I don't think Impunity has been able to follow most of these moves.
It's hard. I mean, admittedly, like, Deep Cross have just been moving a little too fast. I love that they've given themselves the versatility to have some fun in this game. And, you know, I almost wish we got a replay of that one because, like, the way it was timed, it almost looked like Shelly killed Pinway. It was like, it was perfectly timed. Like, beautiful. Dragon's pretty free here for Hana. I mean, Hana's just having an absolute banger of a game. Like, he can do whatever he wants in this, and what he's going to want is charge in with a bomb on top of him and just free Onslaught of Shadow somebody and never die on that Turbo Chem Tank. And yeah, there's not a whole lot that Impunity can do about this, short of trying to finish the backline before it happens, but You talked about how this is a team that rests on resets. It's getting harder and harder to find a good target for them.
Yeah, and usually you have to stay grouped up if you want to reset something. Quiet.
There we go. Oh, man, you get away from one, but there's more coming, and Quiet is going to be put 6 feet under here. Pinway flashing. I don't even know if it was necessary as he gets finished off by Leaky, and it just looks so tough right now for Impunity, as another tower should be shredded here. Criscata and Woody keeping that mid lane clear of minions, and really, Faith, all he can do is try to finish off the outer up top, which he got before that. Well, still doesn't quite hit it on the charm.
Azilian is one of the most frustrating champions to play against. Sure, he's never going to kill you. Like, he doesn't have any kill potential on this Ahri whatsoever.
But you're never going to kill him either.
Exactly. You're not going to kill his team. That was a weird lane allocation from Impunity. I feel like they were playing a little bit too risky. They just tried to hope that someone would walk towards that top lane tower and allow Taco to find a kill there. It doesn't happen, and they get caught basically undermanned on the other side of the map. So, well played by Nesty. He didn't try and go up and contest that. He definitely sensed the presence of another jungler around that area and allowed his team to get a clean 2-kill and a tower on the other side.
Yeah, really, really good moves from Deep Cross Gaming here, and a 6,000 gold lead shy of the 19-minute mark. Hey, there's a charm. Unfortunately, it's on to Hana, and he just walks away on 4 legs. I mean, that is a big centaur.
Yeah, doesn't even really care about the... He doesn't have any magic resistance, but he's so tanky right now that even with the true damage, Ahri's not doing much to him. And you know, this is a interesting Ahri build. Usually we still see Everfrost to make sure the combo goes in.
He really wanted that extra damage. Faith could be in trouble, though. Bombs are just going to destroy the minions. Has been able to keep himself alive a lot. I do think Faith has certainly improved when he's been able to play these types of champions that are more assassin-y. His Yasuo game definitely was a part of that, but I don't know if it's going to be enough here. Deep Cross are looking to set up for a bit of a bait in the jungle, or maybe just a big push here as Criscata leading the way. Not a whole lot that Impunity can do until they bring the cavalry, but those double bombs you have to dodge. They're starting to hurt. Pinway looks to set up, does get the Tom Kench, and into the knockup. Do they have the damage? Here comes Hana. Do they have it to finish him off? That's one reset. Can you get 2, Blaze? Oh, the captive audience, and here comes the curtain call to turn. Taco already turns around, and man, it looked like they have the advantage, but Pinway evaporates, and now they can't do anything.
Oh, what a great snipe from Criscata. He just tags him by the shoulder. You could see that Blaze was trying to save his support, but just couldn't cover the entire width of that Nautilus there, and he still goes down in a 1-for-1 trade. It was great timing from Impunity, I have to say. Like, that was their best chance to get a kill. And remember, when Impunity wants to kill someone, they actually have to go through 2 layers of defenses, the Tom Kench Devour and also the Chrono Shift. So it was really smart that they opened up onto Woody. Honestly, Woody should not be positioning like that. That was kind of troll from Tom Kench. Like, you're one of the big champions that allows your team to escape. You should never be in the front lines, kind of baiting like that one. So, kind of mispositioning, but on the back end, Criscata just cleans this situation up so well.
And this is why we give Criscata a lot of props, right? We've been seeing this guy pop up on hyper carries, but now we're seeing some really good snipe senses on the side of a Jhin, and he's honestly of all the rookies, of all the new players coming to the split, I think he's definitely made the biggest splash in my mind. And I'm really excited to see what he can do with this Deep Cross team, because they, you know, a little mistake cost them the game against CFO, but the fact that they were toe-to-toe for so long, I think that speaks volumes and why they only have 1 loss. It's starting to look like they're going to end the day without losing another one here against the side of Impunity, as long as they keep this effort up.
It certainly does look that way. Right now, Impunity can't really leave any of their towers. If they do, I feel like Ahri and Jace just get run down. Jinx and Jace just get run down. They don't have enough mobility. An interesting thing here from Hana, we have been seeing some of this pop out, but usually it's when you are relatively certain that you're going to be ahead. It is going to be a damage-oriented Hecarim coming in here.
I'm getting flashbacks to the top smite Hecarim, Clement.
True. That's the pure tank Hecarim, but this one's kind of different. This one, he's got some horseshoes on those trotters there.
Yeah, Anamune. Okay, all right. Well, Impunity are going to go for a Desperation Baron, and this is interesting. Leaky has Teleport, but they haven't sniffed this out yet. I believe they just catch wind of it now, or at least the game sense is there. And here comes Hana. He won't be able to flash the pit, but the Baron's already down to 4,000. This is a risky gambit. Impunity have to commit. Onslaught of Shadows. Oh, Hana just does so much damage, but they got to finish. They have to commit. It's going to get taken away by Taco, but will they live to tell the tale of the Great Baron Theft? Impunity trying to make their great escape. They are going to leave Pinway for dead. Faith might be as well, but it's not going to be the bait taken. Leaky taking a lot of damage here as Taco gets removed from the map. Blaze is going to try to walk this out, but nowhere to go as he's rooted for days. So Quiet and Faith will get away. Was it worth?
I think it was. If you just lose 3, it's honestly just losing 2 people from Baron. If you take a look at the gold lead, they actually close the gap a little, especially with the objective bounties as well. So I would say for Impunity, that was definitely worthwhile. It was super risky, but I think a couple reasons this actually worked was because of that Leandri's coming in from Faith. He does deal extra damage to monsters there. The charge in from Hana is great, but the smite fight is won by Taco here, so it does make things worthwhile. Honestly, it's a shot in the dark. It's a Hail Mary, but if it works, it works. And when you're in a losing position like this, any bit of gold that you can claw back is definitely worth it.
Absolutely. And there was no way they were getting out super cleanly. I do like that they tried to dip, duck, dive, and dodge. They managed to get at least one of their big damage dealers out. They removed Hana from the map, which is big bounty as well. And you gotta be careful. Hana straight charging into the base right now. He might actually have bitten off more than he could do here. This is an opportunity as they take down Nesty, and Hana has nowhere to go. It's a double kill for Taco all of a sudden.
That's actually huge. Impunity can claw back and come back into the gold lead. They have a free tower into the top lane, and just think how many objective bounties, or just bounties in general, that they've taken right now. They got the Hecarim one. They've gotten the top lane. They were down by 6k before that Baron. Look at the gold lead now. It's down to 3,000. They're going to get another bounty. And I don't think Hana got the memo. It's Season 12. You can't just int like that and not expect the enemy to come roaring back.
Oh man, they should have been shallow cross gaming on that one. Meanwhile, dive in for round number 2. Unfortunately, Taco is the one that goes too deep this time. Both junglers fighting off a lot more than they could chew, and Leaky is trying to cut them down to size. Finds one, finds 2, looks for a 3rd. Oh boy, Impunity, you might have wanted to rest on your laurels a bit. Let's see if Quiet can walk this out as he tries to dodge and takes 3 shots in the back of the head. Hana gonna hunt him down, and after a big turnaround, I wonder if they can hold on here. Oh, the fast back, not gonna happen. Nesty to the skies, Quiet walking away. The great escape from the Jace. I don't know if it's gonna work though, Clement. He runs face first into Hana. Good night, sweet prince.
Well, there was a glimmer of hope. It lasted for just a second, but Impunity massively overplayed
They stopped
their
the
hand
base
on
from
that
being
one.
taken. I'll give them that. Like they were too busy chasing the Jace to take the base.
That is somewhat true. That is somewhat true. I just want to say that they could have came back and stayed within just 1,000 gold with the Baron buff. That should have guaranteed them to actually overtake in the gold lead. But this play was so unnecessary. Taco had nowhere to go, and I honestly just think he should have backed off after the charm didn't land. There was no need to chase up after that one. They're still underneath the enemy tower. Pingwei takes a ton of tower shots. And even though Quiet does get some pretty sweet outplays coming in here, it's just such a wasted opportunity on the side of Impunity. I'm really rooting for Impunity. I love this squad. I feel like they're so fun to watch, but it is these mid-game mistakes and overreaches like this that have doomed them to a subpar win rate.
Yeah, there's a better chance than I feel like there was before the Baron still, but they certainly squandered the best opportunity, and now they're in a little bit of trouble, right? I mean, Leaky is just like full terrifying Gwen. Hana's been a big monster this game, and it feels like the only opportunity for Impunity is more mistakes now, and they do get a charm off, but Leaky's big enough to just tank it through. He's okay with this. Impunity have to pull off a miracle of a fight. They need the resets. Taco stepping forward. He's sniffing for an opportunity, but will he get one?
Hey, if Hana can int once, then maybe he can int twice. They could definitely overplay their hand with the chrono shift here.
Hey, look, stranger things have happened. Faith already taken a little bit of damage from that 4th Jin shot, and Hana looking for a flank play, but it's telegraphed by the tower, or by the ward, I should say. Meanwhile, the tower does get taken by Leaky, so starting to look a little dangerous. Oh, the double bomb lands into the curtain call. Pinway trying to walk away. Dodges at least a couple of the shots as Taco tanks one up, and that's one less ultimate to worry about. But this ought to be tower on the inner, and Deep Cross are looking to choke Impunity out of the rest of the map.
Yeah, Impunity at this point, they don't really have strong engage, and even if they do engage, I feel like it's enough time with all of their defensive tools, the Devour and the Chrono Shift, for Leaky to actually make the way top. So it was a moment of indecision, I feel like, from Impunity. They definitely should have decided to defend the mid lane inner inhib tower rather than the top lane tower. I feel like they were putting themselves in a far too exposed position by trying to defend outside of their high ground. And they end up paying on both sides. We do have a couple of summoners burned, but actually none in that exchange. So we do have one big team fight left, I think, for Impunity. All summoners up, they get one reset kill where Chrono Shift doesn't land on the correct target, and they could start to snowball. This is a 3-item jinx. We have seen crazier things happen before.
You're certainly not wrong, and the Baron is going to be up just about now. As Woody clears out the wards in that side of the pit, Impunity have one more chance to make this count. However, there's also a soul on the table, and even though it's Cloud, I think actually Deep Cross should be pretty happy with this. I mean, that ability haste certainly not looking too shabby for this composition.
Yeah, for sure, and the extra movement speed is quite nice here as well. So I think it's just, you know, it's kind of a win more at this point when you have full map control, but it definitely could help you just catch up to Impunity, especially on those Baron turnarounds. I feel like the game plan from Deep Cross is just so simple at this point. You just walk towards Baron, and if Impunity do try to come out of their own base, you have so many tools to chase them down. Look at the extra movement speed for Criscata right here. It's going to be very difficult to get away from them. So Impunity, they can't fight a sustained battle. They have to pick someone off right at the start. If they're the ones sort of funneling into a battlefield, I just feel like they're going to get picked apart and then chased down one by one.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough with that move speed. I mean, look at Criscata go. I mean, he's clearly not skipped leg day as he just runs through. And I feel like Deep Cross can just bait this Baron out. In fact, they can easily take it on 4.
Well, they definitely could. Leaky just trying to play interference at this point. Impunity know about this, but with Hana being so tanky, it's hard to actually put any meaningful damage, and here they go.
Yeah, it's the bait. On to Pinway, but they have to go now or go home. On to Faith. They open the curtain call at the moment, and in goes Hana to the back line, and all of a sudden, they've lost 2, and it's going to be a desperate fight here as Criscata is chased around by Quiet and Taco, but unfortunately, Blaze is left out to dry, and Leaky is just popping off. Quick 3 kills. They don't need the other 2, and they certainly don't need the Baron for this final push.
Oh, that was so painful to watch from Blaze's perspective. He's trying to chase into the enemy backline, but then he crosses a brush, and Leaky's already finished off his backline and circled around to pick him off too. Impunity just way too far behind, never got the resets going, especially from that Ahri.
Desperate last effort from Quiet, but it won't amount to anything. They tried an interesting comp. I liked what we saw out of Impunity, but it was too little, it was too late, and at 31 minutes, Deep Cross Gaming will claim another victory.
Once again, DCG pick up a clean game. They didn't exactly overpower with their mechanics, but they did have a very interesting counter in terms of their team composition. This is, again, I think an outsmart game from DCG. They just understand the win conditions from the enemy team composition so well. They counter everything. They even had the Kindred dangling there in case they wanted to reach for even more revivals, and there's really not much that I felt like Impunity could do. If their early game didn't go well for them, if they weren't able to snipe off a couple of kills with the Ahri and get rolling from that spot onwards, there was not a lot they could do in the middle and to late phases of the game.
Yeah, and unfortunately some of the stronger parts individually, I think, on the side of Impunity didn't really look as good today. I'm looking at Quiet up in the top side, had a very rough game on that Jace, and just wasn't able to do much. There was also a lot of attention paid to him by the side of Hana, and I think that is a credit to the level of threat that was assessed by the side of Deep Cross Gaming. And I really love these types of compositions they pull out. They've done a lot of interesting stuff. They've done a lot of the double enchanter, the only team that's really shown it here in the PCS, but it's all been barred. And I came into today having the question, is this like just a couple of Nesty pocket picks? No. Nesty can just pull out like all sorts of goofy stuff. We saw the Zillion. Sure, he got set behind in the laning phase, but that wasn't his job to win the lane. He was there to make sure nobody on his team died and that he was popping bombs on everyone. And he looked good doing it at the same time. I think this Deep Cross team has a very, very deep champion pool across the board, and they're just so skilled. If they just stop going a little too far, I feel like Hana gave them a golden opportunity, impunity there, but otherwise, yeah, very, very clean game from the squad.
That was a classic Hana play right there. You know, like Hana does this sometimes. He goes completely out of his mind, and I love those moments. He's just trying to limit test. He knows that this game is pretty much in the bag for DCG. So again, coming back to like how you defeat DCG, this is the big question everyone has, because so far they're 6-1 sitting at second place, and the answer seems to be that you have to be able to convert mid lane advantages. A lot of these champions that Nesty are playing are not exactly strong laning champions. They hang around in lane, but they don't actually do all that much. And we have seen this from his Rise, seen this from his Vigar, is that he can be punished quite severely if you have a strong mid-jungle duo that can leave the lane and then find kills off the back of it. But in this game, I felt like he got way too much help from Hana way too early on. They were able to snowball and move together, and the laning phase just wasn't as important. The only fight that we really saw them have a chance of losing was that 3-man fight going into their own jungle. Unfortunately for Impunity, they miss a lot of the crowd control right at the get-go, and they get punished severely for it.
Yeah, and I think a big part of the way that they're drafting the comps they're preferring to is kind of based on a solid read of the meta, right? Like you're looking at the priority for these like bot lane hyper-scaling champions where the focus seems to shift towards the late game in that side of the map. And maybe the top is a little bit more like, okay, well, we're going to get these side lane pushers, these carries rolling. But at the same time, mid lane, despite the presence of assassins, seem to be a little bit quiet and they're not getting punished as much. CFO, the only team that have really been able to show that. Even though Nesty has been set behind in a couple of other games, it hasn't punished them at all on this Deep Cross side. And I really like what this team is bringing. I think they do keep opponents guessing, despite the fact that they kind of do a lot of similar stuff in-game. Their compositions certainly show off a lot of diversity there. And yeah, on the flip side, Impunity, it does continue to be more of the same from the individual mistake level. Maybe some team mistakes in over-pushing their hand in that comeback that they were mounting, but the fact that they were able to keep it close enough against what is our number 2 team in the league, it just shows so much of a different side of this Impunity squad than what we saw from them, the different roster last time around where they were just out of the playoff range. I think this is a team that's going to keep stacking wins against the bottom of the table. I just want to see them improve a little bit more, Clement, before we can start talking about the middle of the pack.
That is true. I think right now Impunity are still solidly kind of in that 6th, 7th position behind the other teams, but I would say that out of the bottom teams, they probably have the most logical macro sense for me. Like the Herald play for them was really clean. They got it, got in, got out. Their bottom lane was losing at that point, but it didn't matter. They were still able to make that transition without getting any interference. And also their Baron Hail Mary play was also pretty well calculated. So I think for Impunity, once again, you have a strong sense of macro on this team. You have creative compositions, but at times the individual mistakes can be a little bit overbearing. Once again, MVP going to Cascada. What a bang-up game coming in from him. Great performances on the bottom side. They did punish with that Jhin, just gets a 1v1 against Quiet there. And another beautiful just KDA game. So far, the KDAs across Deep Cross Gaming have been absolutely bonkers. We had like 15 on Hana, 23 on Nesty, and
they're stacking it up.
Yeah, that's just so crazy to see this team just dominating in style, not exactly with mechanics, but with just smarter drafting.
Yeah, and the execution too. I mean, Chris Scott, I talked him up as a hot rookie, and he certainly earned that KDA this time around. Taiwanese sniper in this one. Really opening up, finding Pinway in a lot of those moments, and really just prioritizing targets on the curtain call. I like to see this team doing something a little bit different from the Aphelios Jinx handshake. I knew they weren't going to get the Zeri forever, so it's good to see that Cascada's got some depth to his champion pool, and the rest of the squad just continues to roll. it's been a fun ride to see this squad grow. And I think the rematch with CFO is going to be interesting to watch for sure.
Oh boy, I would love it if like the 3 J teams are kind of locked into a triangle.
Ooh.
It's kind of boring when you have the best J team. You really want that picture where there's like 3 Spider-Mans like pointing on each other. It's like, huh?
I mean, it's going to get, someone's going to have to make that meme. Absolutely.
I believe it's already made.
Of course it is.
PCS
All right, well, we got one more game to play. We're going to take a break. When we return, we will close out the day with CFO versus Hurricane.